with too is nuclear power, but we're not there yet. And
nuclear power a viable solution?
I think so. I think we can do a lot with nuclear power. And if you're really worried about CO2, there you go. There's your solution, and it's dispatchable and so forth. But we're not to the point where we can build modular nuclear power plants. You know, in Wyoming, we're all very excited about the Kemmerer nuclear plant, right? I'm not sure when that thing's going to be made operational, and I'm not sure that it's big enough to really make a profit.
Oh, well, a profit.
Because the smaller you make these nuclear power plants, the more costly the electricity from them. It's a difficult problem. You've got to get to the right scale size, and people are fighting this scale size problem with wind turbines all the time. That's why they keep making them bigger and taller and so forth and so on. And I hate to see the amount of public subsidy that goes into these wind turbines because, you know, that drives a lot of these companies. Repsol is a Spanish energy company, and they are excited as hell about getting a couple of wind farms here in the United States so they can tap into taxpayer subsidies.
Are all of those that have been subsidized, are all of those companies that have been subsidized to build still in existence? Or have they gone away? I've started to find research that indicates some of these companies have gone away.
Well,
their corporations, their LLCs, they dissolved.
You know, every one of these wind plants is a different LLC that's a subsidiary of some other company. That's a subsidiary of some other company.
Wholly owned by this one.
Oh, well, look at Pacific Corp. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of Berkshire Hathaway Energy, which is a subsidiary of Berkshire Hathaway. And then Rocky Mountain Power is a subsidiary of Pacific Corp. And we're almost back to the old days of the utility holding companies where there were abuses galore back in the 1920s.
You have a lot of different names, but you essentially have a monopoly.
But, you know, the lifetime of some of these power plants is a mystery. They kind of plan in advance, and if you look at their applications, they say, well, it's going to last 20 years. But they are, because of subsidies, they can get new subsidies if they repower it in 10. Those are, as you know, these are unintended consequences that we begin to thrash all of this capital expenditure searching for those subsidies. And you know Warren Buffett, who is the top dog, at least for the time being, in Berkshire Hathaway, has said that there's no point building these wind plants except to farm the taxpayer subsidies. Says they don't make sense otherwise, and he is positioning, you know, Berkshire Hathaway as a subsidy mining operation in a way. I don't want to sound like I'm an enemy of Rocky Mountain Power. I think they've been a good power company for this part of Wyoming for a long time. But their executives seem to be wedded to getting rid of thermal assets. Some of them believe things that are not even possible to do. 2 years ago, in May, Rocky Mountain Power, including the president of the company and a number of other people, came to Laramie for a public meet and greet with the public here so they could kind of sell what they want to, what they are planning for the future. And almost nobody from Laramie showed up. And at one point, I found myself there with 5 managers and a couple of executives of Rocky Mountain Power, and one of them told me, if we need cheap power, the cheapest thing I can do is just call up wind. And I said, how the hell do you do that? That's not possible. That means you have to have a turbine that's just idle with the wind blowing when you suddenly need some more power and you just cut that turbine loose. That can't occur but in the most unbelievably improbable circumstances that you can imagine. Yeah,
in a bubble.
In a bubble.
Yeah.
The ratepayer doesn't pay that marginal cost of energy. The ratepayer has to cover the entire system costs.
Dr. Kevin Kilty, University of Wyoming professor in engineering, retired. We've talked about the changing atmosphere, the changing climate of energy. We've talked about energy adequacy. We've talked about understanding power today across a variety of sources. And we've also talked about rates and getting familiar with rates. I want you to stress that rate topic one more time as we close. I just want people to recognize how important is it to look at your utility bill. Ask questions. What can we do as citizens to help for a better tomorrow?
You know, when Rocky Mountain Power suggested in a general rate case from 2 years ago that they wanted to raise our rates by about 22% or 21.7%, something like that, it got people in Wyoming up in arms. They were stunned at the response out there, and they were admonished by the Public Utility Commission for doing such a lousy job of explaining things to the public, and they have tried to do a little bit better job. But looking at your power bill, you're going to see that just the basic charge for electric commodity is up 67% in 2 years, which is what I mentioned. People have to think, how much more of that can we take? Can Wyoming afford to get to the point where we pay California rates for electric service? If we get to that point, as you know, there's a lot of the Wyoming economy that's predicated on cheap coal-fired power, and we add value to it. 40 million barrels of petroleum production in Wyoming every year comes from stripper wells that rely on cheap electricity to run them. Are we going to put this part of the economy just out of business because we're paying California rates? And what happens when we become part of a integrated market in the West where power flows supposedly to where it's needed, and we don't have adequate power? How does the market operate when there's nothing to sell in the first place? But do people in Wyoming think they're going to bid against Californians for electric power? That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
On what salary and what income are we going to do that?
Californians are used now to, in some places, paying $1,000 a month for electric service. I can't imagine people in Wyoming doing that because it'll be a terrible dislocation to the Wyoming economy.
Right. You have graced us, and we've only scratched the surface, Dr. Kilty. Most appreciate you coming to the Talk Shop. I hope we can talk again soon. But before we cut loose, what did you prepare to present to us today that we haven't even talked about, that we might tease out in another visit down the road?
Well, this is sort of amusing. I'm a physicist, geophysicist, mechanical engineer, and so forth. Back in 2015, I got a call from some geochemists in Israel who had read some statistical work that I had done, and they said, we are looking at a pile of data here that we don't know how to explain to people. Would you help us? And I spent 5 years in there helping to provenance relics in the Middle East, many of which have religious significance to them, one of them being the James ossuary and the Talpiot tomb. And maybe that would be a good topic for Christmas time or Easter.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay,
yes, please.
That sounds fun.
I appreciate your time here, Dr. Kevin Kilty. What a spectacular topic and scratch the surface, and I do hope your encouragement, get involved.
Get involved.
People, we must be aware, and we've got to research, we've got to learn, we've got to talk, listen, and learn. And this is the Talk Shop. In Studio 255, I'm Eric Henderson with Dr. Kevin Kilty today on our show. This program brought to you in part by Pole Mountain Pharmacy, dedicated to the health and wellness of Southeast Wyoming from their location at 4th and Harney, and I-80 Towing and Automotive Services, 3830 Cherrywood Loop East, and the Benton Rusty in historic downtown Laramie, 308 South 2nd Street, along with Range Community Insurance.